Well, higher gas taxes, more costly car registration fees, even new taxes altogether. Lawmakers say it's all on the table as they debate a request to give the state's Department of Transportation hundreds of millions of dollars in additional funding. Good evening. Thank you for joining us, everybody. I'm Steve Dunn.
I'm Deborah Knapp. ODOT says it needs the money to take care of the state's roads and bridges. Katu investigator Wright Gazaway spoke with lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. So, Wright, it's up to them to come up with a solution, and they have very different ideas for now.
Yes. Simply put, Democrats say gas taxes and fees need to be increased or at least tied to inflation. Republicans want to start with a detailed look at ODOT's budget. The governor requested an additional $1.75 billion over 2 years for the agency. The recent blast of winter weather likely reminds you just how important it is for the Oregon Department of Transportation to keep the roads clear. ODOT says it's in a financial pinch, and its ability to do just that could be in jeopardy in the future. The agency blames it on declining gas tax money, inflation, and a lack of options on where else to get money.
This funding is absolutely vital.
Its director says it needs help from lawmakers.
We're getting to a point where a lot of our systems are wearing out.
That's where Senator Chris Gorsuch and Representative Susan McClain, both Democrats, and Republicans Senator Bruce Starr and Representative Shelley Bossart Davis come in. They're leaders of the legislature's Joint Transportation Committee. It's up to them to figure out how to address ODOT's funding. What kind of conversations are you having with your Republican colleagues about this funding, where to find it, how to do it, and how to get the governor's budget done?
We have been in these discussions for a year and a half, and we've definitely had many discussions about funding. We do have some fundamental differences in terms of how we view the need for taxes, but this is an ongoing discussion.
Gorsuch and McClain say everything is on the table, increasing gas taxes, increasing car registration fees, or coming up with new taxes and fees altogether.
Not one question is reform.
They will certainly face opposition from their Republican counterparts.
We think that we owe Oregonians that somebody is asking questions on whether that money is being spent wisely and whether that has to be increased in order to go back to the core function or the core mission of what ODOT is supposed to be doing on behalf of Oregonians.
The Republican vice chairs of the committee say the core mission is making sure roads and bridges are safe and reliable. They're open to taking things off ODOT's plate if it's not focused on that. It seems philosophically you guys are looking at new funding and new revenue opportunities, and Republicans are saying let's tighten the belt and watch how we're spending our money. How are you bridging those very philosophical differences here on funding?
We need to do both.
Yeah,
okay, that's
agree.
what we need to do.
Yeah.
We can't do it all with tightening the belt, and we can't do it all by raising new fees because it wouldn't be equitable and fair.
Gorsuch and McClain pitched their ideas as a reset on how ODOT is funded as cars become more fuel efficient and more drivers switch to EVs. ODOT is almost exclusively funded through fees and taxes paid by drivers. Their position seems to be that the mission of the Oregon Department of Transportation has changed over the years, yet the funding mechanisms have not. And in fact, gas taxes are going down because people are buying EVs or buying more fuel-efficient cars. They seem to feel like that's the answer. The gas tax needs to come up to speed. So how are you combating that? If that's their position and they may have the votes to do that, what is your role in this process?
Yeah, so again, we have commitments from the majority that they want Republicans involved in this conversation. But I think our message is raising taxes isn't the first thing that we need to do. We need to go through ODOT's budget line by line and have them justify how they're spending dollars.
I sat down with ODOT's director last week. He said his agency's books are open for any lawmaker who wants to talk about funding and how it's spent. Republicans say transparency and timeliness when they ask questions of ODOT could be better.
So, Wright, any idea when we could get our first look at a proposal from lawmakers?
They tell me the goal is April. The session ends in late June, so that would give them a couple of months to debate. A bill that raises any tax would need a supermajority vote in both chambers. At the live desk, Wright Gazaway, Katu News.
Thank you, Wright. We want to hear what you think about all this. Which solution for raising ODOT funds would you prefer? increased taxes and fees, or a detailed budget review? You can weigh in by scanning the QR code on the screen with your phone or vote in the poll in this story on our website. In fact, I spoke with Governor Kotek about ODOT and their funding issues. We sat down for an exclusive one-on-one interview last week and covered a whole lot of topics. Here's what the governor said about ODOT.
I want to talk about ODOT right now. Transportation, one of the big issues that Oregon lawmakers are working on this legislative session. ODOT says it needs a big boost in funding. In fact, on their website, they say this, and this is a quote: ODOT has enough funding to keep state highway maintenance levels roughly stable until the middle of 2025. After that, in the absence of additional revenue or revenue reform, Oregonians will see a rapid decline in the safety, quality, and reliability of their transportation system. As you watch that, you go, holy mackerel, middle of 2025, that's right around the corner, and that's concerning for folks. What happened here?
I think it's been years here in the state focusing on bigger projects, but not focusing on the nuts and bolts of doing the maintenance and the repair work that we need to keep our current road system healthy and safe. Winter maintenance needs to get funded. And our last transportation package was 2017. Here we are in 2025. That money has run out. We didn't do it right. My message to the legislature, and I've heard this from other legislators, is let's focus on the basics. You must fund road maintenance. We must fund bridge programs, paving, winter maintenance. Let's fund those things first. Let's make sure we have the funds for it, and then we can talk about other things. And I think there's a lot of interest in doing that, because at the end of the day, the roads we do have to work, have to be safe.
I asked the governor if she has confidence in ODOT leadership, and she said, quote, I think Chris Strickler is doing a very good job of being very honest about where our situation is. We'll have more from the governor all this week.
All right, let's dive into the deep end. ODOT funding has been a big topic at the state capitol this session. The agency says it needs a lot more money from lawmakers to keep up its work.
And lawmakers are looking at several options, some of which would impact your bank account. Wright Gazaway sat down with Deborah Knapp to talk about this issue.
Right, you're working on a story right now. I know you spent some time down at the State House last week. The governor wants to allocate more money to ODOT. And of course, you were able to talk to legislators about this. Let's talk about what the Democrats had to say.
Yeah, it's a big deal for the legislature. They have to come up with what to do with this ODOT funding. They last did this in 2017, so it's been 8 years. The governor wants to give the agency $1.75 billion over 2 years. It's up to lawmakers to decide how. So we sat down with Republicans and Democrats. Let's start, like you said, with the Democrats. How they want to come up with this funding. They're looking at everything, really short of tolling. They're looking at increasing the gas tax. They're looking at increasing vehicle registration fees. Any fees that drivers pay, they're looking for opportunities to increase revenue. And they really want to tie these revenue options to inflation, because what they say is that since inflation has really taken off, Oregon's gas tax and the vehicle fees and other fees that they collect are not keeping up with inflation and not keeping up with the cost of these projects. So they're looking at everything, looking at really raising taxes at the end of the day on drivers.
I'm sure Republicans have a very different viewpoint on how this should be handled.
They have a totally different view, and Democrats have the votes. They do need that supermajority, unless there are one or two Democrats who say they don't want to raise taxes on drivers. Democrats can do it. Now, right now, the Democrats and Republicans have a commitment to work together. Republicans say their idea is not to raise taxes. They first want to look at ODOT's budget and look to see if there are any places they can trim, if there's any areas they can be more efficient. They're focused more on accountability. They feel like ODOT's gotten a lot of money, and they want to look at how that money is being spent before they go to Oregonians and say, hey, let's increase the gas tax, let's increase your fees. So right now, this joint transportation committee, it's Republicans, Democrats from the House and the Senate, they're all working on this together. Republicans tell me, I guess time will tell if they'll really have a say, because the Democrats did not seem like there's any option besides raising these fees.
What did ODOT have to say about it? Because I know you sat down with the director.
The ODOT director, they're not weighing in specifically on the policy, but their position is that the funding their agency gets is not sustainable for just the cost of projects and what they're seeing. So it's mostly a user fee funded agency. So most of their money comes from these fees they collect on the gas tax and things like that. So as cars get more fuel efficient, as more people drive electric vehicles, they're not even paying a gas tax. So they're saying that the revenue is just not keeping up with what Oregonians expect. So they're trying to paint the picture to the legislature that, hey, the revenue system streams need to be updated, while also acknowledging Republicans' concerns about accountability and transparency. The director said, hey, our books are open. We want to educate lawmakers and the public on how our money's spent. A lot of it's tied up and they don't have a lot of discretion. So they're really just trying to educate people.
What's the time frame? How are we going to see this all unfold?
So it's a long session, so they have many months to work this out. I'm told right now their goal is to have a framework, at least an early package out by April, so that people can weigh in, look at it, see what it looks like. But they're meeting almost daily to get through the Republicans and the Democrats on this committee to look at the options and what they can do. So hopefully in the next couple of months we could get a better idea about what solutions they bring to the table that the legislature would then vote on.
And we will see the story?
The story, yeah, we're going to air the conversations with the lawmakers Monday night, and then we'll have the ODOT director a little bit later, just looking at, once again, a really complex topic, but people do care about their roads, and they want to know that they're maintained and that they're good.
And so how it's going to affect them financially.
Exactly, especially if you fill up for gas or you get your car renewal fees.
All right, thanks, Wright.
Yeah.